So to everyone today, I just want to thank you so much for joining. I know that 6 p.m. is a time that, it's when everybody, and they want to just basically turn off everything and just enjoy the time because we have an amazing weather in Berlin. But I want to thank you for joining to our monthly community meetings. These are meetings that we have to learn from each other, and I like to call them made by migrants. And let me tell you what is this and why we do what we do at Migrapreneur. The reason why Made by Migrants came to be as a masterclass, it all started in 2015 when we did our first event called Innovation Knows No Borders. And in that event, we essentially invited entrepreneurs with that they did the entrepreneurial ventures outside their country. We had around 15 speakers, and from there on, I guess we never stopped talking about migrant entrepreneurship, because although we had speakers from different parts of Europe and people coming from the Middle East, even from Egypt, refugees from Kosovo back in the 90s, we found a commonality. And even in Germany, we found that a lot of migrants became entrepreneurs because first and foremost, it was not just only the way to essentially find a way of empowering, but at the same time, it was a great opportunity to give back. And this is something really interesting that we found when we did incubation processes in 4 different cities across Europe simultaneously. No matter where people were coming from, it doesn't matter if you came as an economical migrant, family reunification, if you came because you were fleeing out of your country. At the end of the day, entrepreneurship brought us all together. We had the same difficulties. It didn't matter the difference of languages and difference of backgrounds, but what really mattered was essentially the drive that we had to do something in a new country and to give back. I never heard from anyone building companies just because they wanted to become rich, which is, it's all good. But at the end, everyone had this inside desire of giving back. And this is where the whole topic of migrant entrepreneurship, we started to learn more about it, research more about it. And we wanted to focus, of course, on the difficulties that many of us have to basically nail it with our companies. And one thing that we discovered ever since that event that I started to talk to you about is how much we learned from each other, and how much we learned by the experiences and the success of others. So that's why this time around, when we conformed Migrapreneur as a company, we wanted to dedicate once a month this space to once again learn from each other and learn from the successes of others, because this is the best way we can learn how to navigate through a system that we are not familiar with. And that's how Made by Migrants came to be. Just to give you a little of introduction of Migrapreneur, and now I would like to move forward on introducing you to Andrea. Essentially, Migrapreneur, first and foremost, is a community, is a network where migrant entrepreneurs can find a place where they can find information, they can find resources, and most importantly, a guidance and a peer support. And the guidance that we provide, it's because it comes from us, business experts. But at the end of the day, our goal is to connect you all with experts that you need, that oftentimes is very difficult to find, and it's very difficult to reach out. Sometimes we have experts like tax advisors that they don't even answer our emails. We want to make sure that this is a community where you can find what you need. And we're also developing products. Hopefully this year, there will be one product out, which is going to be the first one from Migrapreneur. It will have a different name, but we will make sure to recognize that it was made by us. But the most important thing is that since now, which is great news, that we're out of our capacity, we are making sure to basically, with this product, reach as many people as possible and share the resources that migrant entrepreneurs access everywhere where they are. So that's basically what we do in a nutshell. And we have a community, please join, which is migrapreneur.org, join. I will put it here later on the chat. And this is like what I said, it's a community of people like you and like me, just migrant entrepreneurs with the ones that are sharing information with each other in a regular basis. So please make sure that you join and you interact and ask questions. That's why we're there for, and that's why we're putting this unlimited Slack resource for every one of you. So now let me just move forward to introduce you to our guest today. And I'm gonna tell you how I got to know her. So it was a couple of months ago, actually, through one of these made by Migrants. I had one person who joined in the call, and she said, "You have to meet Andrea." She's also from Costa Rica. I'm from Costa Rica, as many of you know, because I said it and I share it everywhere. She said, "She's coming from Costa Rica, and you have to know what she's doing." And then I started to research and, of course, find more about Andrea, about her company, and I was, wow. I was proud to see how another Costa Rican, another woman coming from that little country, it's making such a huge difference right now in Germany in such a short period of time. And I basically called her and I reached out to her, and she immediately answered me back. We had a nice chat. I also found out that she comes from my little town. I mean, if Costa Rica is such a little country, imagine the little town that we came from. We also come from the same one. And I found in her not just only a very inspiring entrepreneur, I found in her the strength that many of us women migrants are always looking into. And it's this kind of person that when you know her and you listen to her, you end up being empowered. And wait until I finish with this. She didn't only build Vitamin, which is her new startup, and I'm sure that she's going to tell us more about that. Right now, very recent, I read that they closed an amazing round of investment. And this is where I think we all need that. Not only just to make sure that people are raising money, we all need to come together to celebrate. And Andrea, congratulations on this, because we all know how hard it is. And we want to know all the details. No, I'm kidding. We want to know how you made it, what's the tips that you have for many of the ones who are here. Because sometimes we feel that because we look different, we find this journey a little bit difficult, and we find the investment side a little bit terrifying. And I know that people like you can only just inspire many of us to know that it's possible if we do the right things. So here it is. Without further ado, to all of you, get to know Andrea, get to know what she's doing, ask her questions. I will make sure that I let you know when you can do that. But take advantage to get to know a person like Andrea and an entrepreneur that is so inspiring like her. And I'm sure that you're going to listen from her from now and more here in Germany. So Andrea, thank you so much. The stage is all yours, and I mute myself right now.
Thank you. Can you hear me well? Yes, super. Can you see my screen as well? Okay, great. So thank you, Anna, so much for having me here today, because for me it's also super exciting. I was telling my children what I'm doing today, and I said I'm gonna present today with another woman, Costa Rican from Cartago, and they were like, "What?" Yeah, who's also making a difference in Germany. So they felt very happy, and I'm also very happy to be doing that. So thank you for having me, and thank you for all the work you do also, because it's very important. And basically, so you need to keep me a little bit on time. I prepared a few slides, but I want to make sure we are able to also have a conversation. So what I would like to do today is I prepared a few slides to tell you a little bit about me, my story, where I come from, what Vitamin is, and then give you a little bit of, let's say, basic tips from me on both the founding and the road that I've gone through, and also finances in general. And then we can have a conversation, because I think that's probably what's most useful maybe to many of you, to discuss some critical and top of mind questions. So without further ado, I'm going to get started. And so who am I? So my path has been, really interesting, I must say. I started my life in Costa Rica. I was born there, and I lived there the first 12 years of my life. But basically since then, I moved to many different places. My father was in development. He worked for an organization that helped throughout Latin America to develop infrastructure projects, education projects, all of these different interesting topics. And so therefore, I ended up living in different countries in Bolivia, Mexico, Dominican Republic, Brazil, and then went to study in the US, and I studied my undergraduate in finance. So from very young, I kind of had a big calling for numbers, but also for business. And to be honest, I remember having this calling because my dad was an accountant, and so he just and they both worked, and I had not, like, they basically, I was the only girl, the oldest girl. I don't have a brother, so basically it was on me to do some of the things that my parents couldn't do during the workday. And so from very early, I was paying the electricity bill and the phone bill and the mortgage bill, like from when I was 8, because we were living in a little town that was very safe at the time. So I just had all these money responsibilities. And so I tended to like this thing since young, and went to study finance then in the US. I went to Wharton, which is a business school in the US, and then went to Wall Street. After Wall Street, I followed companies in Latin America and worked in private banking. I decided to go to get my MBA at Harvard, and then went to businesses. I worked then at Colgate-Palmolive and at Fresh Direct, which is an online food retailer in the US. I led the merchandising team there as chief merchandising officer. And then on the path, while I was in the US, I met a German. Never thought this would be the case, because at 13, I learned German, and I said, I'm never learning this language again. And so here I am since 2008. I moved to Germany because my husband and I decided to move here because my father-in-law at that year got a liver transplant. And so we thought, you know what, we want to be close to the family. Let's give it a try. And that was 12 years ago. Never planned to be here this long. 14 by the end of this year now. Yes. And so, yeah, that's how we came about. And I came back to finance when I moved back to Germany, because I joined, we were first in Munich, and I joined Allianz Global Investors, which is the asset management arm of Allianz. So as you can see, my life has been a combination of living in different countries and starting from scratch many times. But at the same time, like, the thread of finance and business has been there since very early, because I had a curiosity. I think I studied entrepreneurship as well at Wharton. So my majors were finance and entrepreneurial management. And I remember being inspired, actually really young, by the person who owned the main supermarket in my town at the time, which is La Super Despensa. I'm sure Anna knows this place. It was a small supermarket, and my father was the accountant that helped the two guys set it up. And since then I was like, oh my God, this is so interesting. And actually my first job ever at 18 was working there. And I made $100 that month. That was the basic salary in Costa Rica. And I got inspired because I saw these two men basically build this company that became the supermarket that everybody knew, and also gave a lot of jobs. And then that for me was just a really interesting perspective, and always stayed in my mind that, like, creating companies is a way to provide a lot of benefit to people. So that's kind of where this started. And then in my time, it was actually, so I went to Allianz, worked there for 7 years when I came to Germany. And during my second maternity leave, I had some time to step back in my life and say, okay, what do I do with my life? I've been giving all these gifts, been to these great schools, lived in these different countries. What do I do? And at the same time, my sister came to me and said, I saved some money and I don't know what to do with it. And she's also a very bright woman. She's done all these wonderful things, but she doesn't know what to do with her money. And I was like, start with an ETF, which it stands for Exchange Traded Fund. And I can tell you much more about that. But she didn't know any of these concepts. So when I said, she's my sister, she doesn't know, this is a gap. And I basically just started talking to women and inviting women in Berlin to my house and teaching them about money and finances. And I realized, oh my God, this is like a huge issue. Like, it's a big gap. Like, women are not taking care of themselves financially. And that's basically when I started to coach women one-on-one. That was about 2018. And I coached women about a year and a half, and then started to already think of what business this could become. And I was very lucky because after the first round of the pandemic, I said to myself, it's now or never. And I basically started to work with a friend who wanted to start a company, wanted to start a company. And we started to talk about this. Then she told me, I'm not a founder, I want a job. And then at the same time, she introduced me to my co-founder because she saw his post on LinkedIn. And I have my co-founder, his name is Artyom. He's from Latvia and has family in Russia. And he and I basically took a long time to get to know each other at the beginning and decided to found Vitamin at the beginning of last year, put our business plan together. And we were very lucky to have a team that is very relevant at the moment. And at the same time, I think an idea that was able to get us a great round of funding last year and later, early last year and then later last year. And now we have raised 2.8 million to build this company. And now we're a team of 16. And so let me tell you why. So why Vitamin? And so, you know, these are the first two slides that we open our pitch deck with. And we ask, when was the last time you, and by the way, most of the people on the other side of the table are mostly men. So it's like, when was the last time you talked to a man about money and investments? And the answer is often very frequent when men answer the question. But when the question is, when was the last time you talked to a woman about money and investments, it's much less frequently, basically. And so I often tell people when I talk about this, it's like, think of your daughter or your sister or your mother or your wife. How often does this really happen, right? How often are they really actively taking financial decisions that benefit them? And the thing is that the lack of taking care of our finances really impacts women, because they're not only impacted by the fact that they're not taking care of their finances, but by many other things that are hurting them significantly. One of them is the salary difference, because women still earn much less than men on average. The other one is motherhood, which ends up many times in a demotion, slower career, or even stepping out of the workplace for too long. Then we have other things like career breaks that are maybe not even driven by the motherhood break, but also because you have to take care of people in the family. And then what women sometimes forget is that we also tend to outlive men, and we live about 5 to 7 years longer. And therefore, it's so important to know how are you going to pay for those at least 5 to 7 years, if not starting, at the time of retirement. And so this is a very big issue. In fact, in Germany, the current pay gap is 18%. So women make 18% less than men. And in retirement, the gap is 46%. In fact, women in Germany, when they retire, 63% of them make an average pension of 900 euros or less. The percentage of men is 29%. So it's significantly less. So in Germany, there is a big issue of poverty at retirement for women. And it's something that we don't talk about enough, but it's really driven by a lot of different factors. And another one of them is the unpaid work that women do at home, which is quite a lot still today. And this, in general, costs women between 750,000 euros to $1 million in their lifetime. These gaps, and why, these are all different gaps, including the investing gap. See, because what happens is women earn less. They therefore can save less. They can invest less, but the issue is they're not even investing. They step out of the career, so they end up earning, the gap gets even bigger because they don't earn for a few years. They don't put money towards retirement for a few years or for many years. So the gap is really, really intensified by many different factors coming together. And women, 45% of women haven't had a financial role model in the past. In fact, 87% of them have never been encouraged to consider investing as an option to build wealth for their future. And mostly what we have is a financial confidence problem. And I say financial confidence because I really don't think women have a confidence problem, but they do have sometimes a lack of confidence around finances because they think they don't know enough, or they haven't learned enough, or many different things or obstacles, and many of the mindset obstacles that come up for them to take care of their financial goals. So, what happens is women haven't been served by the financial industry. In fact, in a recent survey, 90% of financial providers that were surveyed in a big survey globally said that their main customer is a man. So all the financial products have been built towards men, or a majority of them. And so they haven't really taken into account what women need and the trust they need to have, or the financial knowledge they need to build to take care and to take steps that build for them a financial future. On top of that, they go to the current financial providers to look for advice, and they get all these different words, including ETFs, right? At the beginning, it's like, what is that? And you know, all of this complexity that feels really, that instead of bringing them along, like creates already like a barrier for them. They also like want a strategy. They want someone to talk to about their goals, because women tend to have a more goal and long-term oriented view to their finances, and they get the sales push from financial providers, or you know, they come to a provider that what you want them to do is to kind of invest much more on a speculative basis, or to simply go and buy. And so they are not, their life circumstances and their needs are not really being accounted for. And that's what we're trying to change with Vitamin. Really, I mean, the statistics show that basically in Germany, only 10% of customers are women. So there's still a big gap in addressing women. And that's where we're here. That's basically why Vitamin exists. Vitamin exists to power strong financial futures for all women. And at the beginning, we're starting in Germany. How we want to do this is basically, our mission is to shift mindsets, to lead those conversations, and to guide every woman to take confident financial action. We stand for women. We really do. And I'm very passionate about that, which doesn't mean any of the gentlemen on this call can not open an account at Vitamin. You can. And our goal is actually, you know, I think about it often, like 85% of consumer spending is decided by women. Why? And they decide on their families' purchases. Why shouldn't they decide on their family's investment approach? Why shouldn't they open the account for investing for their children? Right? So this is, or the joint account with their husband, so that they can both save for their future. So this is the approach we're taking. So because we need this, because it hasn't been done before. And I am taking a very strong, I often get the question, why women? Why only women? We're welcoming everyone, but we need to stand for women. We need to shift women. And we also need, I think, when you build a company, you need to have a very clear, you know, target customer in mind, and really, really understand them and see what their needs are, so that you can be successful. So I'm going to switch a little bit, because I do want to leave a few thoughts for all of you around finance. It's a very basic, just a few thoughts, because I don't have the time today, but I do encourage you to go onto the site, and I can show it to you at the end just very quickly. But what I want you to know is that, you know, especially around money, I think all of us come from different places, right? And from different backgrounds. And we have different thoughts about money. Maybe some of those thoughts are blocks that hold us back from really, you know, basically seeing money as a way to abundance, and something that can make the world and everyone around us better, and that can make our life better. Maybe not, maybe yes, but I would encourage you to explore what some of those thoughts can be. And I put here some truths that I think are important about money. So one thing that's important to know, and that I'm very passionate about, is, you know, the financial markets today, especially when I started my career, they were not as accessible. Now the financial markets are completely accessible to anyone. You don't have to be rich to invest. You can start with 25 euros. In some other cases, with even 10 euros a month. If you don't know where to start, and we will have an investment product soon, so happy to welcome you. But start with even with that amount, that whatever you can afford, so that you can start to prove to yourself why is investing so powerful. Investing is so powerful because saving is not going to make you any wealth. When you save, all you are doing is you're taking a risk more than you take many times with investing. Why? Because you're taking the risk of inflation. Every year your money loses worth, basically. You cannot buy the same amount of stuff that you can buy today at the end of this year with that money. You simply can't, because everything gets more expensive. And if you keep money in cash, you're actually losing value of your money. This is super important to remember. The inflation in Germany on average has been over the past 10 years around 1.7 to 2%. This year, it's pretty bad. The inflation is much higher, and it's only getting higher with the current conditions of the economy. So it's so important to think that saving is not going to get you there. And it's also so important to think that many of us, especially, I think, in this community, have learned that working hard is super important. And I think working hard, I'm a hard worker, that's what I do too. But it's not just about that, right? It's about how do you make money work for you? You have earned this very, very valuable money with your work. How can you make it work for you? And how can you make it potentially be invested in things that you believe in as well? And the other thing that's important is actually you don't have to be great with numbers or even good with numbers to be a good investor, because there are options out there that can help you really do it on an automatic basis. All you need to do is to start putting like a savings plan together where you transfer a certain amount of money every month to a portfolio. And that's going to be our first product this year. Basically, we're going to give everyone the ability to come and open a depot with us and start doing that, investing consistently for their future with as much as you're comfortable, actually, so that you can learn and see, okay, this works. And over 5 years did work. Okay, maybe from year 1, I put 25, year 2, I'll put 100 a month, whatever you can afford. I mean, if you have saved more, you can, but it's more about getting comfortable with it. Take the first step. And then what is finance? What is finance? What are the key pillars of finance in our life? And I love to look at this as a circle, because I always think this is the virtuous circle of finance, right? So abundance is a thing we can all have, and it's a mindset thing too. And we've heard many of these stories, people who had nothing and went to a lot. It's more about, what is the psychology and the attitude that I have towards this thing called money and towards this thing called abundance. Do I believe inside myself that basically there is enough for everybody to be had, not only in money, but in terms of goodness, success, and all these beautiful things that we can all have? It starts there, right? And then what are the pillars of a financial life? First, it's earning. Where are you making money? Maybe it is going to be through your company. Maybe it is going to be through a job. Maybe it's going to be through a job, a couple of gigs that you do on the side. Maybe it's going to be through your job and a real estate investment that you'll do in the future. It could be so many things, but what's coming in, that's your earnings. And then how are you spending your money? Be careful about how you spend your money, because whatever is left, it's the savings. And that's the amount of money that you can use every month to basically build your financial future and to start investing. That's really a key thing. How much are you going to save, and how much can you grow that through investing? And then the next thing, which is something we can't forget about, is how about Tony Robbins, which is I'm a big fan of, says the secret of living is giving. So what are you going to do to create even more abundance in your life? Potentially donating, giving in many different ways to others to create this positive cycle in your life. And so this is what we're about at Vitamin. We are about giving people different learning tools and learning options to learn about these different topics. For women, for example, when we talk about earning, it comes to how do you have the salary discussion to close your own pay gap? Because we can't wait for the government to demand this and that and for pushing this and that. But what about you close your own pay gap and figure out how much are your colleagues making, someone else in the same role? How can I negotiate this? How can I make sure that I'm actually earning what I'm supposed to be earning? What's my path for growth? What does that mean in terms of salary? Have those conversations. So it's all about that. So now I'm going to move on, and I'll show you in a second at the end of the website. But before that, so I want to move on a little bit from the financial topic, and that was very basic. If you're interested in learning more, also we have a ton of money talks that are going on all the time where you can join and learn more. But in terms of thinking of the business, I wanted to switch a bit and saying, what are some of those lessons that I have gained over the past years? The first lesson, which I didn't put here, is start as soon as possible. I knew I wanted to start a business since I was very young. Went to study. I guess at 22, when I graduated, I still wanted to start a business. I built my first business plan, feasibility analysis for different ideas. And it took me, that was in 1998. So it took me 23 years or 22 years to start, because I did other great things that prepared me to do this, of course. But still, like, start as soon as if you have that call, do it, One thing that I think has been critical in my founding path has been to find a co-founder. I was very lucky, so it wasn't a very big search process, but my husband kept telling me, because he knew I wanted to do this, you have to find someone to do this with. And I was like, but where, you know? And so finally I found Artyom, who's a great co-founder. And we took a long time, you know, at the beginning to really get to know each other, because one of my learnings is, especially having worked in startups, is that the founding team is critical to any business you have. Those people that build this company from the beginning are going to set the culture, are going to make this company run in a very positive way for other people, or to make it really difficult. So take your time to know this person. If you are finding a co-founder or co-founders, take the time to get to know them. Do they believe, do they have your values? Do you align in how you're going to do things? Do you think you're going to treat people similarly? Do you know, how do you want this company to look? You know, for me, for example, our culture is super important. You know, for me, people are really important, both our users, but also our people. And I'm a firm believer that if you have a great team, that shows in the product. That if you have a great culture, that shows in the product and how you serve your users. And therefore, building this core team is super critical to me, and building it with people that believe in our mission, that believe in our values, that respect each other, that are strong human beings, you know? And so you need to find someone, if you want to build a company, that believes also in some of these things similarly to you, to make the path for everyone better. Because otherwise, eventually it's going to create, not to say that conflict is bad, there will always be conflict, and through conflict one grows and gets better, etc. But some core things have to be there, otherwise it can create a lot of pain later. And the other thing, number 2, you don't need to know everything. We think we need to know everything before we start sometimes, you know, you need to know that, and then you play out scenarios in your mind. And, you know, I do that too, believe me. I'm often, the way to calm myself down is to think of the worst case scenario. And then I'm like, okay, if that happens, that like life goes on, you know? So I think the only thing you really need to know is what are the first 1, 2, or 3 steps, the next ones, then the other things will come. It's amazing how that is. But you know, you have a vision, you have something that you want to create, but you don't know everything. You just need to know the first 2, next 1, 2 to 3 things, and then you figure out the next, because it's natural. And that's something that's so amazing about creating businesses, you know? It happens still to me sometimes, like, how am I going to get that done? And all of a sudden I'm there, you know, like, okay, that figured itself out. Like, I just went the next step. It should, you know, have that faith and that trust. But of course, ask for help, because, you know, get comfortable that you won't know everything, and there are people there to help you. So just really get used to asking for help. I think that's super important. For me, one thing that's super important is developing practices. And I have learned this also. I love personal development, and I've learned a lot of tools since very young. So my dad took me to my first personal development training at 13. And through that, I think you develop a lot of different practices that support you in different moments. I have my morning practice, for example, but I have cards of affirmations at home. And when I need them, I pull them out. You know, I have different things that support you, because founding and life in general, it's not like it's a roller coaster. That's why we're here. So you need to make sure you're supported and you support yourself through the difficult times. And finally, build your network. I think a great network, and probably this is a great space to do that. It's really, really important to making sure that you have, you know, people around you that you can ask questions, and that you can, you know, that can help you with different things across many different aspects of building a business. And make it happen. Yeah, believe in yourself. Actually, it's really interesting, but 80% of success and anything we do is actually psychology. If you believe you're going to do it, okay, I'm going to tell you my secret. No, just kidding. But every time I go into an important meeting, before I go into that meeting, I pump myself up. And I have a very clear affirmation that I tell to myself, which I have trained over the years, which enables me to be in the right mindset to go get anything done that I need to get done there. And I'm going to give it my best. In that moment, there are these critical moments, the investor meeting, or, you know, a presentation or whatever. So, you know, a lot of it is psychology. You need to believe yourself that this is going to happen. And whether, you know, for some of us, we believe in things bigger than us, faith, whatever it is, a combination of many things. Use those things to be sure within yourself, to develop that strength within yourself that you need. Then another thing that's good, I do this kind of naturally. I forget the bad stuff very often. I don't remember stuff that's bad. It's kind of crazy. But just leave the bad stuff behind. Like, it's not going to serve you. What's the point? Like, don't put it in your backpack. Like, you only have so much space in your backpack, right? So don't carry the bad stuff. Carry the good stuff. And it's hard. Sometimes it takes a long time to get rid of the bad stuff, but try to do it, because what's the point? It's not going to serve you. Then another thing for those of us who have come to this beautiful land, sometimes it's not so easy here, you know, because we come from different cultures, and yeah, people can be more skeptical. I lived 14 years in the US, you know, mistakes sometimes are not so bad over there. Like, you take risk, whatever, you mess up, go on. It's a different spirit. So just know that, know where you are, know what may be some of the things that you may encounter, and then know that that's what's happening, and it's not you, it's not your idea, it's not maybe the other person, not even the other person, right? Because there are so many factors that, you know, so use that to put yourself in the shoes of the other person and understand where they may be coming from, and to know that it may not be anything having to do with you. So develop ways of thinking that really help you to overcome some of those obstacles that you may find on the way. And then what's important is do develop a strategy. So how are you going to build this business? What is the plan? What is, you know, what do you want to get done? Who do you want to talk to? Have a plan and then follow that plan. And if you figure out, okay, this plan is not working, okay, then refocus and try again, right? But it's and there is iterations. I mean, my husband and I founded a business before we actually founded Vitamin. And that didn't go so well. It was going well, and then Corona came, and the whole thing dried up. It was about tech talent from all over the world, and it was going well, and all of a sudden, March 2021, no one hired anyone, right? No, 2020. God, yeah. So it's crazy how things happen. So you just try again. You never give up. That's it. And finally, know your numbers. When you are going to raise, when you are going to talk to people about your business, have a business plan. Build it, know why those numbers are there, and practice as much as you can. If you get in front of other people, either for sharing your business, for a sales pitch, for a pitch deck, for a pitch round, for fundraising, whatever it is, just practice, because the more you do, the better you will be. And so those are my thoughts for today. I'm very quickly just going to go on my screen and show you our website, because I have to, for those of you who haven't seen it before. This is our website, and you can learn a lot more about us. But what I love, especially because this is one of our main areas right now, we have created this, what we call this wellness journey, where you can find kind of different paths of learning for yourself. And we have different finance tools and events and online courses. And for those of you who want to learn more about personal finance and how to lead your financial life, like, go here and explore this section, because I'm sure you can find a lot of interesting things that can help you get, you know, take a step forward in your financial life. So yeah, I'll stop now and let's open the floor for questions. Thank you so much for your time and for listening.